Confirmed. Well, hold on. I don't want to be fucking okay. Not beat your ass. Slap the shit out these kids, man. And I beat your ass. And I beat your ass, nigga. Like what is this?
Let me watch that replay too. Like it's untouched. Oh, I can't even. Fuck that guy, man. Fuck, pussy. I don't fucking care. Like, woo! Fucking hell.
What's up, dude?
Yo, what up, dude?
Hey, what you want that kid?
Nah, he never showed up, man. He don't want no fucking... He don't want that, man. Fuck that. Yo, I checked this profile, dude. That guy was like... But when I was doing Blake Stalker in 2010, 2011, that guy was like Bronze League. So it's like... Even if you were doing the strat, you weren't doing it at a you know, a competitive level. Like, fuck off, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like I just finished like dealing with two dudes, and then he shows up to my base and he's like, "You think I'm gonna go soft on you?" And then I like kill his first wave, and I'm like, "That looked pretty soft." And then he like shows up with more. I'm like, "Okay."
Oh, you talking about the barcode?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's my friend Janison.
Well, yeah, I looked at his profile and I noticed you guys played together. So I already messaged him. I'm like, "Yo, man, Devin's protecting you right now. That guy don't want to see you get hurt." I've already like saying shit like that, like, cause I'm like, "Yo, I'll 1v1 that guy right now, man." But like, I don't think he wants to 1v1. I mean, I don't think you want to see him lose. I mean, he could beat me. I'm not the best player, that's for sure. But like, dude, I'm looking at this.
On GM, bro.
Oh, so he's under the Smurf account or something?
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about no GM, dude. Dude's disrespecting me, man. Let's laugh him out. That's cool, though. That's cool. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't actually care. But, nah, dude. Like, I'd still 1v1 him. I don't think here's the thing. Like, when I think somebody's not as good as me, I don't want to 1v1 them, right? And, I didn't want to 1v1 him. And now you're telling me he's GM. So it's like, oh, okay. You know, if this GM guy wants to play, like, I don't care if I lose to a GM player. I'll play him. And I honestly, I've beaten GMs before. I could beat GM. But I'm just saying, like, now it's probably where he knows he's better than me. He doesn't want to bother playing me, if that's the case, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way.
PCs are friggin' so good in FFA, man.
Well, that's what I was
PC
trying to
guys,
do. I was trying to go for Protoss Air, and I got rushed 3 times. And I was, like, forced to defend myself with Stalkers, so I was just getting annoyed by the end of it. And then this guy, like, one base all-ins me after I already fended off 2 guys, and he thinks he's like talking shit. It's like, shut up, dude. Like, oh man, I really wanted a piece of him. He barely got me too. That was the best part. Wait, fuck, I shouldn't be talking. Oh fuck, this guy I'm playing against right now is pretty good. Let's go. all the traps laid out for me. Yo, did they reduce the damage on mines? I think they did. Maybe they did a long time ago. Mines used to do a lot more damage, dude. They're doing less now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. What do you mean they reduced my damage?
Did they? I think they did. Do you think they might have like a year or two ago or not?
I think so.
Fuck, I was distracted that game. Shouldn't have been doing that. Fuck. Yo, why is that guy GM but he's under an account that's like not GM and it has activity since 2014? To me that just seems weird. Like, is he GM under different accounts then?
Yeah.
Weird.
I mean, I've seen him go on huge ladder days and be in GM and whatnot, so...
Oh, okay, so you've seen him actively be in GM, not just like, I have an account that has GM on it.
Yeah.
Alright. It still is funny though that he basically asked me if I wanted to 1v1. I said yeah, and then he just stopped talking about it. So like either way, he still backed down. Kind of funny. I never.
To prove to you, man.
What?
I said he just has nothing to prove to you.
Oh, I'm sure he doesn't. But you don't say to somebody, "Do you want a 1v1?" and then not actually do it. Like that's weak. I understand he's your friend and you want to talk shit about him, and that's fine. I'm not expecting you to say anything, but like at the end of the day, dude, like if you're not gonna do it, you don't do that. Because I'm the same way. I'm not about the 1v1s. Like I'm not gonna be like, yo man, you want to 1v1 me right now? Like I might say that, but if I do, I'll actually back it up. But like generally, like I don't really have time for that sort of stuff, right? So I'm like he doesn't want to do it, that's fine. But he still shouldn't have said anything, man. That's still pussy shit.
Dude, the bottom line is, like, you shouldn't be shit talking about friends. And...
Well, I thought you didn't know anybody in that game, dude. I only found out he was your friend after the game was over. I'll say that. If I knew he was your friend beforehand, I would have been a lot nicer. Honestly.
What did you even say? You're like, do you know these guys? Like, did you say niggas or bitches
Or something, I don't know. I said something like that. Yeah.
Well, Jennison's black too, I think, so you might not be too happy about
shit.
that. But
That's
I thought
funny.
you were just talking about the Mexican guys. Yeah, I think I know a lead slayer in Barcode.
Well, once I noticed one guy, that Team Goes To guy. Was that the Beat Slayer dude? Or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once I noticed somebody in Team Goes To, I was like, oh, okay, Devin probably knows some of these guys or something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
hey, man, I mean, like, okay, I got a mouth, but at the end of the day, I really just say like funny type stuff. Like usually I say shit and people just kind of laugh at me. Like I don't really like get that personal. And also, at the end of the day, I also don't even care. Like, I don't even know who these people's names are. Like, I'd forget about this guy in, like, 2 days from now, you know?
It's not a big deal. I just hope that Jennison didn't see you say, like, N-word or something. I didn't see what he said. Just have profanity.
I did at, like, the start of the game, I think. But, like, I did use, like, an A and a Z. So, like, maybe he was just like, alright, whatever, this guy's a dumbass. Like, if you're misspelling words, like, nobody should be taking you seriously.
Yeah.
But either way, you know, I didn't know he was black. You know, I didn't know black people play StarCraft, so it's my bad.
Yeah, you know, Cammy Green's also black.
So is, what's that one guy? Fucking Maximus Black. Yeah, that guy.
Oh,
That guy's
really?
definitely black.
Yeah.
You know who that guy is? That guy's old.
Yeah. Also, Tempo is black. Let's see, who else? That's all I know, I think. Anyways, bro, I'm about to go out to dinner.
Oh shit, what are you up
My
to?
mom's boyfriend's actually.
Alright. Oh, I won! Oh shit. Or maybe I didn't. Holy fuck. No, I think I did. Yo, this shit crazy, Devin. This is crazy out here, man. No, cheesing is nuts, man. It's so fun.
Who you playing against?
I'm just 1v1ing right now. The Thinger. I don't know, some guy. But like, oh, dude. Oh, he got the shield battery. Oh, shit. I'm just gonna drain him out. I don't know what he's got. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck.
But yeah, I mean, Jennison's messaging me. He's like, yo.
Yo, you can say whatever you want.
Is not too much. He's like, even though I have ESL open cut 2 overs bio ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can throw me under the bus, say whatever, say Dink's an idiot. I don't care, you know what I mean? Like, once you said he was GM, I'm like, alright, whatever. Like, I know my place. I'll shut up.
Okay. I was just gonna tell you all the shit that he said to me that he beat people like Pilly Pilly and Patty Mac. I don't know, man.
You know,
I was just like, I don't know, I wanted to see what you were gonna say anyway, so I was like, no, I don't know these folks.
I mean, yeah, I don't even know any of those guys, man. Honestly, I don't even.
Oh, I thought maybe me and Jess had played before or something. Like, he's on a barcode, like.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's possible I played with him before, but I don't know anybody anymore, and there's a good chance he doesn't even know who the fuck I am. I'm not like as like known as I used to be, at least. So, but I swear people used to know me, even people that didn't like me. They might not say it, but like I've heard people on streams talk about me and stuff, right?
Oh,
and
really?
it's really weird to think. Like dude, like I'm not even kidding you. I heard ProTech call me. This is like probably 2013. Like ProTech on stream is like, oh yeah, that Coach Dink guy, that guy Blink Stalker hacks or whatever. And Blink Stalker, like whenever he said it, it wasn't even that popular of a strat yet, and I don't even know if there was a hack for Blink Stalker microing.
Yeah, there is.
Well, there is now or whatever, but when he said it, maybe there was when he said it. I've never looked that shit up, but it was pretty early, man. And
I I guess Protex called me a hacker a couple of times too. I just brushed it off because what the fuck? He just calls everyone a hacker, man.
Yeah, and like whatever that guy's name is, Snuggles or whatever you play with.
Struggles.
Scrubbles. Like I played against like him and like it was the weirdest thing ever because I remember like at the loading screen, like as soon as they saw my name, they were having like a casual conversation where they were like talking about like ha 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 this and ha 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 that, and then as soon as they saw my name, they both stopped talking and like processed for a couple of seconds, and then one of them's like, oh, by the way, and then they just started talking about all these things that I do. And it was like the weirdest thing because it's like I've never even talked to these people. I don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
And it's like I just come on this game every once in a while and play. Meanwhile, there's people that come onto this game and like know who I am and study my strategies and shit and know what I do. That's fucking crazy, man.
He has a lot of accounts in GM, so he's probably played you on a Smurf before. Anyways, I gotta go, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to you later, man.
Yeah, talk to you later, Dev. Peace,
Later.
man. Fucking dodging bastard, though. I mean, you're only M3, dude. What are you saying to me when you're on M3 shit? On M1 account. This guy got quiet. Didn't even win. I love it. Oh, this trash player purple ends up winning. How could it start that high? That's broken.
in picking up women. They usually just see me with my disability. They think that I can't please them, but I'm a really nice guy. It just hasn't gotten me anywhere. So I saw this guy, Trex, online. He's picking up chicks in these videos, and it inspired me. So I gave him a call. Maybe you can help me get a girlfriend or something. T-Rex, hey, I'm Robbie.
What? Oh! Oh, shit, yo. I expected you to be normal size, Robbie. What the hell, man? You're micro machines. Luckily, I know literally everything there is to know about getting pussy. So even though you're test tube gub snail man, we're gonna be getting you knee deep in some gash. I don't care how small you are. These are just 2 extra dicks right here. See? Check it out. How do you even get down the steps? There's no ramp. What are your parents doing? Don't worry, I got you covered. Alright, Robbie, check it out. This right here is my boyfriend Nitro Dubs, aka Mr. Shit King Shit Pussy. Yo, he's my boyfriend, my #1 buddy. Nitro Dubs is about to swag you out. Major League Swag Out, Major League Swag Out, Major League Swag Out. Alright, Robbie, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror right now. Because this is the last time you're going to be looking this gay in your whole life.
Hey, yo, Trex, come help me swag this kid out.
Alright, dumb idiot. Yo, first up, we got a plain t-shirt from Casanova Nightlife. Cool-ass sweatpants from Bucci. Yo, Bucci makes the finest sweatpants that you can buy in the mall. That you can buy in the black person mall. Check my dude out right here. Yeah, Nitro Dubs, you hooked it up again. Yeah, you smell candy apple. That's the shit, right? From now on, you will be known as Moon Man. But your secret name that will be known only to me, and that only I will call you, is Tennis. And your secret name that neither myself nor Nitro Dubs will call you will be David Duke. I just spent an enormous amount of time and money training you to be my protege. I want you to go in there. I want you to talk to that fly-ass bitch on the right side. I want you to say some wild shit to her. Say, I'm that gorilla dick nigga. I make dyke pussy wet. I'm not saying that word. Sorry. I'm that gorilla dick pussy god. I make dyke pussy wet. Sorry.
I'm like gorilla. I'm like gorilla dick, baby. I'm like gorilla dick god. I make dyke pussies wet. Okay. I'm like God damn it.
Here's how you get that gold. You're gonna say, you have 10 cents to show me that hole. Because this gorilla dick dad is hungry. And if you don't blow me right, I might kill you.
Alright, listen, bitch. You got about 10 seconds. Because this gorilla daddy dick is hungry. And if you don't blow him right, I might kill you. You hear me?
No thanks.
Three, two, one. Welcome. Thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Whoa. How do you go from world peace to fucking Joe Rogan? No, you can't do that to me.
They usually just see me in my disability. They think that I can't please them, but I'm a really nice guy. It just hasn't gotten me anywhere. So I saw this guy Trez online. He's picking up chicks in these videos, and it inspired me. So I gave him a call. Maybe you can help me get a girlfriend or something. T-Rex, hey, I'm Robbie.
What? Oh, shit, yo. I expected you to be normal size, Robbie. What the hell, man? You're micro machines. Luckily, I know literally everything there is to know about getting pussy. So even though you're test tube gub gub snail man, we're gonna be getting you knee deep in some gash. I don't care how small you are. These are just 2 extra dicks right here. See? Check it out. Alright, Robbie. I want you to look at this in your whole life. Gucci. Yo, boot in the mall. You can my dude out right here. Yeah. Nitro Dubs, you hooked it up again. Test the shit, is it right? But your secret name, is it right? From now on, you will be known as Moon Man. But your secret name that will be known only to me, and that only I will call you, is Tennis. And your secret name that neither myself nor Nitro Dubs will call you. Will be.
as you just saw, EA Play is available now on new consoles, Steam, and Origin, and includes Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, one of our nominees tonight, and a great game. All right, now on to one of the biggest games this year. It was created by 3 developers in Seattle, now 4. You saw them, they won 2 awards tonight. Interslot, they absolutely took over the internet with Among Us. Well, they set us something special. This is the reveal of the brand new map for Among Us. Check it out, crewmates.
I don't give a fuck about Among Us. Okay, so a bunch of people play. For some reason, everybody thinks Among Us is cool. I don't know. But, like... Dude, I'm not interested, man. I've never been into that shit. And it's like, these guys didn't invent it. The game's been around forever, man. People have been... It's like a board game, pretty much. It's like Risk. It's Clue or whatever. It's Clue. And now these random dudes are making millions of dollars off of it? I don't know, that seems weird. Fucking seems weird, man. Trying to figure out what game I want to play later. Give me to play Hearthstone, Cup. Oh, let's do Cuphead, I guess. Cuphead's pretty fun. Do a bit of Cuphead. Oh yeah, Matt's playing. I can't. Guess Hearthstone.
these minions? 2 words. Funnel case. Keep up the momentum, friend.
Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has that he is under federal investigation. While he says this has something to do with tax issues, we're finally getting reporting from the mainstream media that, in fact, this has something to do with potential money laundering and illicit business dealings with China. My friends, this may be the biggest media scandal in U.S. history. When the story broke about Hunter Biden's potential wrongdoing and the fact that Joe Biden himself may have been in on the tape, the media said it was Russian disinformation. NPR said it's not news and we won't waste time with distractions. They lied to us, covered up the truth, in my opinion, to help Joe Biden get elected, to install an individual who was corrupt and compromised. A man named Tony Bobulinski, who worked with the Biden family, came forward and said Bidens are compromised. We saw the story, but big tech and big media did everything they could to suppress it. Following the election, a poll was conducted of American citizens and found a large portion did not know that Hunter Biden was potentially under investigation or that he had been involved in illicit business dealings with China. They learned of this from the questions in the poll and said, had they known, they would not have voted for Joe Biden. A small portion, but large enough that Joe Biden likely would not have won. Now, it's just one poll, maybe it's not true, but in my opinion, I think if the American people had real journalism informing them that Joe Biden, the big guy, was getting a cut of illicit business dealings, they probably would not have voted for him. The media wanted this man in power, and congratulations. While Donald Trump is signing historic peace agreements today between Morocco and Israel, we look forward to the prospect of a corrupt individual who is compromised by China. Now, of course, this investigation isn't proof positive they're corrupted or compromised by China. Just the other day, about a day or so, a video went viral of a Chinese professor named Yidong Shang, who bragged that now that Trump is out, they will be able to sway U.S. policy. That before Trump, they had old friends helping them manipulate U.S. policy. He goes on to mention that Donald Trump was talking about Hunter Biden's business dealings. And he says, Hunter Biden became very wealthy, but who do you think helped him do it? And the audience laughs. And he says, got it. This is the biggest media scandal of my lifetime, at least. You may know the story of Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald is, in my opinion, one of the most consequential journalists of our generation. He's the one who published the NSA leaks. He was forced to resign from the news organization he founded because they refused to report on these stories about Hunter Biden and his corruption. And now we're learning a month after the election why Glenn was right. And many of these outlets were right, but they were being protected, and the media would not be honest with the American people. My friends, journalism is dead. What has replaced it is a corrupt, propagandistic establishment to serve the elites. And that's it. The democracy that we claim to have, and the left claim we have, cannot be served so long as the American people have no idea what's really happening. Years of claims of Russian disinformation, accusations against Trump. It turns out it's the Bidens. And it was the media who was doing everything in their power to protect them. I'm going to stop right there and say this. Many people in the comments are probably already saying, we know the media is corrupt. We know the media is, yep. But now we have possibly the biggest confirmation that the press in this country have been doing everything in their power to hurt the American people, to empower the corrupt at the highest levels of government. Let's read the story. Before we do, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support the work that you give. The best you can do is share this video. Let people know what's happening with news organizations in this country. They do not serve the people. They are lying to us every single day.
Oh, no.
This is the worst I have ever seen it, and I can only imagine it's going to get worse from here. Don't forget to also subscribe, the like button, the notification bell, and let's read. But I'll tell you what. I have this story pulled up from the Washington Post. Hunter Biden confirms he is under federal investigation. They say federal prosecutors have been investigating Hunter Biden, President-elect Joe Biden's son, to determine if he failed to report income from China-related business deals, according to people familiar with the matter. A politically explosive probe that is likely to challenge the Justice Department in the incoming administration. I am sick to my stomach at the level of depravity and corruption from these media outlets who have the gall to tell me it is politically explosive now when we knew this months ago, and they shut the story down to protect one of the most criminally complicit and corrupt families in this country. For decades, more than 50 years, the Biden family was enriching themselves off of Joe Biden's name and public service, if you can call it that. His brothers made millions of dollars building in Iraq. When Joe Biden conveniently got into office and began overseeing Iraq, guess whose brother got a lucrative contract? Guess who flew their son to China for these investigations? The investigation into Joe Biden's son includes Joe Biden, who used Air Force Two to fly his son to China, and the media covered it up, protected this family, and now we're told we're going to sit back and just wait until this crooked, despotic family takes authority in this country. That's what they're telling us. Disgusting. I'm not going to read this story from the Washington Post because Politico just upped the ante. The Justice Department's interest in Hunter Biden covered more than taxes. Federal prosecutors also have investigated foreign ties, possible money laundering. You know what I'm going to say to you, Politico? You are disgusting, you are corrupt, and you are the worst example of everything wrong with this media. December 9th, 2020, federal prosecutors also investigated foreign ties and possible money laundering. I'd like to bring you back in time to October 19th from Natasha Bertrand. Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinfo, dozens of former intel officials say. More than 50 former intelligence officials signed a letter casting doubt on the provenance of a New York Post story on the former vice president's son. They spit in our faces, they lied to us, and they laughed all the way down. And now as Donald Trump fights as hard as possible to retain the presidency, and he should, they're telling us that it is a foregone conclusion that Donald Trump has lost. And you know what they're doing? You see, now that we're a month out from the election, and they're comfortable in saying that he's lost, they're laughing. They're spitting on us with news like this. This, they didn't. They could have just maintained the lie, but they want you to know. They want you to know they are spitting in your face. Remember that story we told you was fake news? Guess what? It was real the whole time. Go yourself, because we don't care about you. That's what they're telling us. Politico reports the federal investigation into Joe Biden's son, Hunter, has been more extensive than a statement from Hunter Biden indicates, according to a person with first-hand knowledge of the investigation. On Wednesday, Hunter Biden said he had been contacted about a tax investigation out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware. In addition to Delaware, the Securities Fraud Unit in the Southern District of New York also scrutinized Hunter Biden's finances, according to the person with direct knowledge of the investigation. The person said that, as of early last year, investigators in Delaware and Washington were also probing potential money laundering and Hunter Biden's foreign ties. The person spoke on the condition of anonymity because they are not authorized to discuss the matter publicly. In addition to the probe of Hunter Biden, federal authorities in the Western District of Pennsylvania are conducting a criminal investigation of a hospital business in which Joe Biden's brother, James, was involved. Federal officials have asked questions about James Biden's role in the business, according to a second person with direct knowledge of that investigation, who said it remains ongoing. I have never been this sickened and angry. Is Joe Biden compromised? Yes. What would a father not do to protect their son, his only living son now, or his brother, who both enriched themselves with his help? This is a crime family. Now, they're not the most egregious offenders of crime families. The left has said, oh, the Bidens are masterminds, but people say that Biden is too bumbling and stupid. Biden is old and hapless, but certainly in his 50 years, he used his name and connections to enrich his family. in an email that was published from Hunter Biden's laptop, we learned that there was a 10% cut from the Chinese equity deal for the big guy. We learned from a man named Bob Alinsky, who worked with this family and was included in his emails, that Joe Biden was the big guy. And he said, this is from radio.com, former Biden associate tells Tucker Carlson that Joe Biden is compromised by China. Tony Bobulinski, a former business associate of Hunter Biden, explains to Tucker Carlson the questionable business dealings between the Bidens, China, and Russia. Quote, I think Joe Biden and the Biden family are compromised, said Bobulinski, a man who worked directly with the Biden family and expressed his outrage. You see, Bobulinski told the Biden family not to take a $5 million interest-free forgivable loan, which I would describe as a gift. And when he found out, he only found out they did when emails were leaked. And that caused him to come forward saying, I told them not to do this. They went behind my back. Joe Biden's son and brother are being investigated for crimes, financial crimes. The media knew about this. They lied about this. And they covered it up because they don't care about you. They care about enriching the establishment and the cathedral. James Rosen tweeted, Justice Department official confirmed that in 2019, the FBI opened up a criminal investigation into Hunter Biden and his associates, focused on allegations of the money laundering, and that it remains open and active today. What will happen if Joe Biden is inaugurated? Joe Biden will likely get rid of the investigation. We need a special prosecutor now. Unsurprisingly, Tom Cotton has called for a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden. They say Cotton alleged in a Fox News interview that Hunter Biden appears to be the subject of a far-ranging investigation and cites allegations of securities fraud, money laundering, and a crooked hospital deal with Jim Biden, Joe Biden's brother. Quote, these investigations span multiple jurisdictions, and if Joe Biden becomes president, then all of those prosecutors are in line to be fired next month. If there were ever circumstances that created a conflict of interest and called for a special counsel, I think those circumstances are present here. The Biden family has been trading in Joe Biden's public office for 50 years. Do we really think that will change if Joe Biden becomes president, the highest office in the land? Cotton made his comments a day after Hunter Biden disclosed the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware is investigating his tax affairs. Quote, I take this matter very seriously, but I am confident that a professional and objective review of these matters will demonstrate that I handle my affairs legally and appropriately, including with the benefit of professional tax advisors. But is it really just about what's legal? There's a lot of things that you could argue are illegal that you probably wouldn't want a politician to be doing. How about trading securities on classified COVID information? Or learning about COVID, and then all of a sudden, your third-party advisors make a bunch of beneficial trades where you make a ton of money off of the pandemic. Yes, not illegal, but we don't like that it's happening. Joe Biden uses his influence to enrich himself and his family, and that's it. There are alleged text messages that we've seen from Hunter Biden, and they very much implicate Joe. The emails themselves and Tony Bobulinski. But my friends, this is not just about the Biden family. It's about how the media has sold us out. You know, it's really crazy. Donald Trump called them the enemy of the people for so long. And for a long time, I just said, it's a bit hyperbolic and not a big fan of calling, all of these people. But Trump said, no, the fake news, not the good journalists, not the real journalists, perhaps. But what do you do when Politico employs someone like, say, Natasha Bertrand, who wrote this story that it was Russian disinformation, protecting the Biden family while they commit crimes, or while they're presumably committing crimes. I'll put it that way. Want to avoid litigation. What do? Glenn Greenwald resigned. This was one of the most significant historical moments, in my opinion. Many people may not be familiar with Glenn, or they may not care that much about him, or Glenn may disagree because I'm calling him one of the most consequential journalists of our generation, but it's true. I don't think it's just an opinion. This is a man who published some of the biggest revelations. And I'm not the biggest fan of Glenn Greenwald. I respect him for a lot of reasons, but I have my criticisms of him as well. I think he could have done better with the NSA revelations. And there's a lot of concerns about, how slowly he rolled them out and the money he took to launch The Intercept. But he left The Intercept, a news organization that wasn't going to let him cover this story. Glenn writes on his now Substack. This is Substack, for those not familiar, is where individuals can publish their own articles with a subscription. It's kind of like a written Patreon kind of platform. Glenn says, with news of Hunter Biden's criminal probe, recall the media outlets that peddled the Russian disinformation lie. The now validated facts about Hunter are precisely those the U.S. media, in tandem with Silicon Valley and the intelligence community, suppressed based on lies. He shows from Politico, Natasha Bertrand's article, he shows this story. Dozens of former intelligence officials sign a letter warning Hunter Biden's story could be disinfo. Here's one from NPR, public editor. Why haven't you seen any stories from NPR about the New York Post's Hunter Biden story? Quote, we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories, and we don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. Glenn writes, the revelation that Hunter Biden is being criminally investigated for his business activities in China came on Monday from the investigative target himself, and he predictably and self-servingly depicted it as just a narrow stroke about his tax affairs by the U.S. Attorney for Delaware. As I wrote last night, that by itself would be significant enough. The documents published in the weeks before the election by the New York Post contained ample information about exactly the matter, yet were widely repressed by a union of mainstream news outlets, the intelligence community, and Silicon Valley based on propaganda and lies. But new reporting suggests the investigation has been far broader. I have to stop and ask this question. Why are they now admitting it? Why is the Washington Post? Why is Politico now saying straight up, yep, it's happening? Because they hate you. They hate you. I know it's a bold thing to say, and I'm not one to usually engage in that kind of rhetoric, but think about it. They don't need to. There's no obligation for these news outlets to now come out and smear Joe Biden for helping. They're doing it because they want you to know how much they disrespect you, how little they care about you, and how funny they find it that they screwed with our elections and your life. That's it. If they were willing to lie and suppress this information before the election, they have no obligation to come out and bag it, wave it in our faces, and brag about how it's real. Now that the election's over, they actually say, politically explosive will certainly play a role with Joe Biden becoming president. They want you to know it is a serious scandal. But Joe Biden is going to become president anyway. It's almost like they want this country to explode in a fit of rage. Now, I'm not going to read everything Glenn writes because this is his Substack where he actually charges, but I want to read one important part, and I've had to actually remove pictures of the emails because it's bannable to show them. That's the pressure and the suppression media is doing on this information. Glenn writes, the pre-election article I wrote and was blocked from publishing by The Intercept, which precipitated my departure from that outlet, extensively discussed these documents revelations regarding the attempts by Hunter and Biden's brother Jim to exploit the former vice president's influence in China to generate profit for the Biden family. Among other things, the censored article described the Biden family's pursuit of business opportunities in China, referenced, quote, proposals for lucrative business deals in China that traded on his influence and his father, discussed the possibility suggested by the emails that Hunter, along with Joe Biden's brother Jim, were planning on including the former vice president in at least one deal in China, and argued that these documents raised the critical question of, quote, whether Biden ever knew about business proposals in Ukraine or China being pursued by his son and brother, in which Biden was a proposed participant. All of these vital facts and questions about Hunter's activity in China were largely suppressed from the voting population by the bulk of the U.S. media, working in tandem with Silicon Valley, which simply prevented the story from being discussed and shared on key platforms, and the intelligence community. How was this accomplished? Largely through outright propaganda, a blatant two-pronged lie. These materials should be ignored because they constitute Russian disinformation. There has never been any evidence that Russia played any role whatsoever in these materials. The New York Times acknowledged no concrete evidence has emerged that the laptop contains Russian disinformation. And the paper said even the FBI has, quote, acknowledged that it had not found any Russian disinformation on the laptop. This newly disclosed criminal probe obviously constitutes very strong evidence of their authenticity, as was the confirmation at the time from several participants in the emails that they were genuine. Critically, not even the Bidens denied the materials from the laptop were authentic. As the Times noted last night in its story about the criminal investigation into Hunter, the Biden team has rejected some of the claims made in the New York Post articles, but has not disputed the authenticity of the laptop files upon which they were based. Even the letter used by these media outlets to peddle the, quote, Russian disinformation lie from known liars, former CIA and other intelligence community leaders who claimed that the Hunter laptop story has all the classic earmarks of Russian information, admitted we do not have evidence of Russian involvement. We must, in my opinion, launch a special counsel investigation immediately. There is currently a lawsuit going through on document for the Supreme Court. We've not yet seen at the time of recording this video if they're going to pick it up and take the case. 17 states have issued a statement of support for the lawsuit. Now, several more states have filed a motion to intervene. This is the next step. Many people said that 17 states had joined Texas lawsuit. They haven't. They filed what's called I think it's called amicus curiae. I can't pronounce it properly. It's basically saying, trying to the court, that we're in agreement that we support this claim. The latest development is that many of these states have officially filed to intervene, meaning they are asking permission to be plaintiffs in the lawsuit. This is huge. I think we should all be sitting here crossing our fingers and hoping that Donald Trump succeeds. The media tricked us and manipulated us to make sure that someone crooked like Joe Biden could win. Joe Biden will use that office to destroy the investigations, to cover things up. And maybe that's why he's so desperate to win. And maybe that's why, as a very, very old man, he's decided to be president. Why would someone so old want this job? A job that's very devastating. Why would Nancy Pelosi put forth the 25th Amendment to remove him in the event he's incapable? That was clearly because Joe Biden is likely incapable. Joe Biden, in my opinion, is taking this job because he knows Donald Trump is digging into things. Go back in time. Let's go back in time to the famous Ukraine phone call. Donald Trump said there's a video of Joe Biden bragging about getting a prosecutor fired. There are concerns that Joe Biden got this prosecutor fired in Ukraine to protect his son, who was potentially about to be sucked into an investigation based on the fact that he was a board member for a company called Burisma, which was under active investigation. In fact, dozens of active investigations. Joe Biden, in my opinion, went to Ukraine and got a prosecutor fired to protect his son. Trump called, and he said, I would like to look into this. They impeached Trump over it. He desperately attempted to protect Biden. Joe Biden, they said, Trump is trying to dig up Germany's political life. Joe Biden wasn't even running for president at the time. All of a sudden, then, Joe Biden says, I'm going to run, and he steps up. Even though there's a quote from Barack Obama saying, no, you don't need to do this. So let me ask you, Joe Biden wasn't running. Trump started digging into the criminal activities of the Biden family. Joe Biden then decides to run, and all of a sudden, it was off, it was off the table. Trump was no longer allowed to investigate the criminal activities of a corrupt, crooked individual like Joe Biden and the crooked individuals in his family. That was the cover, and the media helped. Special interest at these news outlets helped. These people need to be fired immediately, but it's not going to happen. We need a special counsel, and maybe we'll get it because Tom Cotton is calling for it. But I want to briefly highlight this story. This is from Media Research Center pointing out that in a poll, they found 13% of voters didn't know about Hunter Biden and Joe's corruption. 4.6% of Biden's total vote said that had they known, 13% of Biden's total vote, 4.6% of Biden's total vote and 13% of all voters said that if they knew the facts, they would have not voted for former Vice President Joe Biden. The media is actively protecting a criminal family. I'm not pretending that the Bidens are the smartest criminal family, but they're criminals. I don't know what we can do. They expect us to just sit here and smile as a known criminal family now would be entering the White House. The left will ignore it. Many of these progressives will ignore it. They don't care. They think the orange man is bad, and many of them can't tell you why. But it's because the media lied. They protected these people, and this is what we're facing now. The stories about Hunter are true and worse than we knew. Media lied and hid the truth in order to help install a compromised crony into the White House. That was me retweeting this tweet from October 22nd. We had weeks before the election. They could have warned us. They could have told the people. I tried. Many independent news outlets tried, and the left covered it up. Evidence of a money laundering probe Hunter Biden was apparent in the markings of a series of documents made public, but went largely unnoticed in the days leading up to the November election. They didn't. They were suppressed. Unnoticed. That's their claim. Rolling Stone, October 21st. Vile, baseless conspiracy theories are spreading about Hunter Biden. And despite pledges to curb misinformation in the lead up to the election, social media sites aren't stopping them. Amazing. Newsbusters put together a compilation of all the people saying the story was Russian disinformation. We now know that we are facing a very serious threat. A compromised president who, let me just tell you this. Let me say this. Perhaps Joe's not in on it. What would Joe Biden do to protect his son? Is that why he's running for office? Is that why he ran for office? Is that why, even after being told he didn't have to do this, he did? Is it why other Democrats dropped out? Because maybe there's other Democrats involved and they pressured these other candidates to just put their weight behind Joe Biden? I'm not talking about a vast conspiracy. I'm talking about someone who's in the Joe Biden family calling Buttigieg and convincing them to drop out. Maybe they were complicit, maybe they aren't. Maybe they were Biden just said, maybe drop out. We're in trouble. We've got this lawsuit coming. Civil War was trending on Twitter the other day. Now Seditious 17 is trending. They're saying these Republican states that are challenging the results are seditious. You tell me, do we sit back and just say the corrupt criminal family has won, and the criminal enterprise that is mainstream news helped him, and we do nothing? Or do we sue and we fight back in the courts to make sure this can happen? I don't know what to tell you. We're in serious trouble. We're in very, very serious trouble. I can only look at this news right here. As Trump signs his fourth historic peace agreement between Israel and Arabic nations, potentially bringing about peace in the Middle East, we're learning that a crooked, corrupt family is going to take the presidency. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. live, youtube.com/TimCastIRL. We're going to be talking a lot about voter fraud with hard evidence. Stick around, and I'll see you all then.
Well, still don't so maybe it's much ado about nothing. But having that kind of power, when we were just before the podcast, we were watching Jack Dorsey speak to members of the Senate in regards to Twitter censoring the Hunter Biden story and censorship of conservatives, but allowing dictators to spread propaganda, dictators from other countries, and why and what this is all about. One of the things that Jack Dorsey has been pretty adamant about is that they really never saw this coming when they started Twitter.
Yeah.
And they didn't think that they were ever going to be in this position where they were going to be really the arbiters of free speech for the world.
Right.
Which is essentially in some ways what they are.
I think it's important to roll back the clock for people because it's easy to think, that we just sort of landed here and that they would know that they're going to be influencing the global psychology. But I think we should really reverse engineer for the audience. How did these products work the way that they did? So let's go back to the beginning of Twitter. I think his first tweet was something like checking out the buffaloes in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. Jack was fascinated by the taxi cab dispatch system. You can send a message and all the taxis get it. And the idea is, can we create a dispatch system so that if I post a tweet, then suddenly all these other people see it. And the real genius of these things was that they weren't just offering this thing you could do. They found ways to keep people engaged. I think this is important for people to get. They're not competing for your data money. They're competing to keep people using the product. And so when Twitter, for example, invented this persuasive feature of the number of followers you have, remember, like, that was a new thing. Right? You log in and you see your profile. Here's the people who you can follow, and then here's the number of followers you have. That created a reason for you to come back every day to see how many followers you have. So that was part of this race to keep people engaged, as we can talk about in the film. Like, these things are competing for your attention. That if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. But the thing that is the product is your predictable behavior. You're using the product in predictable ways. And I remember a conversation I had with someone at Facebook, who was a friend of mine, who said in a coffee shop one day, people think that we, Facebook, are competing with something like Twitter, that one social network is competing with another social network. But really, he said, our biggest competitor is YouTube, because they're not competing for social networks, they're competing for attention. And YouTube is the biggest competitor in the digital space for attention. And that was a real light bulb moment for me, because you realize that as they're designing these products, they're finding new clever ways to get your attention. That's the real thing in film and social, rather than talking about censorship and data and privacy and these themes. It's really, what is the core influence or impact that the shape of the product have on how we engage when they're changing?
Do you think that it was inevitable that someone manipulates the way people use these things to gather more attention? And do you think that any of this could have been avoided if there was laws against that? If instead of having these algorithms that specifically target things that you're interested in, or things that you click on, or things that are going to make you engage more, if they just allow these things to, if someone said, listen, you can have these things, you can allow people to communicate with each other, you can't manipulate their attention.
Yeah, we've always had this, right? And you're competing for it, and politicians before, who you never paid attention to, never heard about, for them say something outrageous, So there's always been an attention economy, and so it's hard to say we should regulate who gets attention or how.
But it's organic in some ways.
Right.
Like this podcast is an organic, because if we're in competition, it's organic. I just put it out there, and if you watch it, you don't, or you don't, I don't have any say over it, and I'm not manipulating it in any way.
Sort of. So, I mean, let's imagine that the podcast apps were different, and they actually, while you're watching, they had like the hearts and the stars and the kind of voting up in numbers, and you could like send messages back and forth, and Apple Podcasts worked in a way that didn't just reward, the things you could follow on. It actually sort of promoted the stuff that someone said the most outrageous thing. Then you, as a podcaster, have an incentive to say the most outrageous thing, and you rise to the top of the podcast spot or Spotify. And that's the thing, is that we are competing for attention. It felt like it was, and it was relatively easy. And to progress that story back in time with Twitter competing for attention, let's look at some. So they also added this retweet, instant resharing feature, right? And that made it more, because we're all playing the same lottery, right? Like I could retweet your stuff and then you get a bunch of hits, and then you could go viral and get a lot of attention. So then instead of the companies competing for attention, now each of us suddenly win the fame lottery over and over and over again, and we're getting attention. And then, I have another example that's going to be
Apple has an interesting way of handling sort of the way they have their algorithm for their podcast app is it's secret. It's weird. But one of the things that it favors is it favors new shows, and it favors engagement and new subscribers. So comments, engagement, and new shows.
There you go. And that's the same as competing for attention, because engagement must mean people like it. And there's going to be a fallacy as we go down that road. But go on.
Well, it's interesting because you could say if you have a podcast and your podcast is like $20,000, a new podcast can come along and it can rank. And so it could be number 3 and it could be number 2. How about number 2 has got 10 times less, but they don't do it that way. And their logic is they don't want the podcast world to be dominated by, New York Times, whatever's number 1, number 2, number 3 forever.
We actually experienced this. We have a podcast called Your Undivided Attention. And for the month, we went from being lower 100 or something like that. We shot to the top 5 tech podcasts for a while. So we just explored this through the fact not that we had the most listeners, but because the trend was so rapid and so we jumped to the top.
I think it's wise that they do that, because eventually it evens out over time. You see some people rocket to the top, like, oh my God, we're number 3. And you're like, hang on there, fella, just give it a couple of weeks. And then 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, now they're number 48. Right? They get depressed.
Right.
Well, that was really where you should have been. But the thing that Apple does that I really like in that is it gives an opportunity for these new shows to see where they might have gotten just stuck, because these rankings and the ratings for a lot of these shows are so consistent and they have such a following already. It's very difficult for these new shows to gather attention.
Right.
And the problem was that there were some people that gamed the system, and there was companies that could literally, like Earl Skakel. Remember Earl became the number 1 podcast, and like no one was listening to it. Earl has money. And he hired some people to game the system, and he was kind of like open about it, and laughing about it. Now, isn't he banned from iTunes now or something? I think he got banned because of that, because it was so obvious he gamed the system. He had like 1,000 downloads and he was number 1.
I mean, the thing is that Apple Podcasts you can think of as like the Federal Reserve, the government of the attention economy, because they're setting the rules by which you win, right? They could have set the rules, as you said, to be who has the most listeners, and then you just keep rewarding the kings that already exist versus who is the most trendy. There's actually a story, don't know if it's true, though, it was a fairly credible source who said he was meeting with Steve Jobs when they were making the device, and that they had made a demo of something where you could see all the different listeners, so just like making a newsfeed, like you could, right? And then he said it was, well, why would you do that? If something is important enough, your friend will actually just send you a link and say you should listen to this. Like, why would we automatically just promote random things that your friends are listening to? And again, this is kind of how you get back to social media. How is social media so successful? Because it's much more addictive to see what your friends are doing in a feed, but it doesn't reward what's true or what's meaningful. And this is the thing that people need to get about social media, is it's really just rewarding the things that tend to keep people back addictively. The business model is addiction in this race to the bottom of the brainstem for attention.
Well, it seems like if hindsight is 2020, what should have been done, or what could have been done had we known where this would pile out, is that they could have said, you can't do that. You can't manipulate these algorithms to make sure that people pay more attention and manipulate them to ensure that people become deeply addicted to these platforms. What you can do is just let them openly communicate, but it has to be organic.
And then the problem is, this is the thing I was going to say about Twitter, is when one company does the engagement, meaning showing you the things that the most people are clicking on and retweeting, trending, and things like that. Let's imagine there's 2 feeds. So there's the feed that's called the reverse chronological feed, meaning showing in order in time. Joe Rogan posted this 2 hours ago, but that's, after that you have a link that people posted an hour and a half ago, all the way up to 10 seconds ago. That's the reverse chronological. They have a mode like that on Twitter. If you click the sparkle, it'll show you just in time, here's what people said, sorted by these things. But then they have this other feed called what people click on, retweet, etc., the most people you follow, and it sorts it by what it thinks is something they want to post. Which one of those is more successful at getting attention? The sort of recency, what they posted recently, versus what they know people are doing. Correct. And so once Twitter does that, let's say Facebook is sitting there with recency, just showing you here's the people who posted. They have to also switch to who is the most relevant, right? The most retweeted. So this is part of this race for attention. Once one actor does something like that, and they algorithmically, figure out what's most popular, the other companies have to follow, because otherwise they won't get the attention. So it's the same thing if Netflix adds the autoplay 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown to get people to watch the next episode. If that works at, say, increasing Netflix's watch time by 5%, YouTube sits there and says we just shrunk how much time people were watching YouTube because now they're watching more Netflix. So we're going to add 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 autoplay countdown. And it becomes, again, this game theoretic race of who's going to do more. Now you open up TikTok. TikTok doesn't even wait. I don't know if you know your kids use TikTok, but when you open up the app, it doesn't even wait for you to click on something. It just actually plays the first minute the second you see it, which none of the other apps do, right? And the point of that is that causes you to enter this engagement stream even faster. So this race for attention produces things that are not good for society. And even if you took the whack-a-mole stick, or you took the antitrust case, you whacked Facebook and you got rid of Facebook, or you whacked Google, or you whacked YouTube, you're just going to have more actors flooding in doing the same thing. And one other example of this is the time it takes to reach, let's say, 10 million followers. So if you remember back in wasn't Ashton Kutcher who raced for the first million followers? Race with CNN, right?
Yeah.
So now, if you think of it, the companies are competing for our attention. If they find out that each of us becoming a celebrity, having a million people we get to reach, if that's the currency of the thing that gets us to come back to get more attention, then they're competing at who can give us that bigger fame lottery hit faster. So let's say 2009 or 2010, did that, it took, I don't know, it was a little bit. And then TikTok comes along and says, hey, we want to give kids the ability to hit the fame lottery and make it big, the jackpot, even faster. We want you to be able to go from 0 to a million followers in 10 days. Right? And so they're competing to make that shorter and shorter and shorter. And I know that's because, speaking from a Silicon Valley perspective, venture capitalists fund these new social platforms based on how fast they can get to like 100 million users. There was this famous line of like, I forgot what it was, I think Facebook took like 10 years to get to 100 million users. Instagram took, I don't know, 4 years, 3 years or something like that. TikTok can get there even faster, and so it's shortening. And that's what people that's what we're competing for. It's like who can win the fame lottery faster. But is a world where everyone broadcasts to millions of people without the responsibility of publishers, journalists, etc., does that produce an information environment that's healthy? And obviously, the film and social dilemma is really about how it makes the worst of us rise to the top, right? So our hate, our outrage, our polarization, what we disagree about, black and white thinking, more conspiracy-oriented views of the world, QAnon, Facebook groups, things like that. And we can definitely go into it. There's a lot of legitimate conspiracy theories, so I want to make sure I'm not categorizing or dismissing that. But that's really the point, is that where the things that we are paying attention to are not necessarily the agenda of topics that we would say in a reflective role, what we would say most important.
So there's a lot of conversation about free will and about letting people choose whatever they enjoy using and watching and paying attention to. But when you're talking about these incredibly potent algorithms, these incredibly potent addictions that people develop these things, and we're pretending that people should have the ability to just yeah, that seems. I have a phone called that, and it's all caps. It's the end of scroll through all my apps. So I want to use Twitter or Instagram.
The problem is that the apps that you're putting in so when you switch apps, you have to be right there. So that's the problem.
It's insanely addictive, and if you can control yourself, it's not that big a deal. But how many people can control themselves?
Well, I think the thing we have to hone in on is the asymmetry of power. As I say in the film, it's like we're bringing this ancient brain hardware, prefrontal cortex, which is like what we use to do goal-directed action, self-control, willpower, holding back, marshmallow test, don't get the marshmallow now, wait later for the 2 marshmallows later. All of that is through our prefrontal cortex. And when you're sitting there and you think, okay, I'm going to look at this one thing on Facebook because my friend invited best scene, just find a poster to look at. And the next thing you know, you find a poster for an hour. And you say, man, that was on me, I could have had myself control. But there, behind the screen, behind that glass is like a supercomputer pointed at your brain that is predicting the perfect thing to show you next. And you can feel it, like this is really important. So like, if I'm on Facebook and you flick your finger, you think, when you're using Facebook, it's just gonna show me the next thing that my friend said. But it's not doing that. When you flick your finger, it actually literally wakes up this sort of supercomputer avatar voodoo doll version of Joe. And the voodoo doll of Joe is, the more clicks you've ever made on Facebook is like adding a little hair to the voodoo doll. And the more likes you've ever made, add clothing to the voodoo doll. And the more watch time on videos that you've ever had, add shoes to the voodoo doll. So the voodoo doll is getting more and more accurate the more things you put. This is character as he's using the AI. And the idea is it can actually predict this video or that photo from your friends or this other thing, and it will figure out the right thing to show you that it knows will keep you there. Because it's already seen how that same video, that same post has kept 200 million other voodoo dolls there. It just look like another voodoo doll. So here's an example. And this works the same on all the platforms. If you were a teen girl and you opened a diet video on YouTube, 70% of YouTube watch time comes from the recommendations on the right-hand side. So the things that are shown recommended videos. And it will show you, it'll show, what did it show the girls who watched the teen dieting video? It showed anorexia videos, because those were better at keeping teen girls' attention. Not because it says these are good for them, these are helpful for them, it just says these tend to work at keeping their attention. So again,
these tend to work if you are already watching diet videos?
Yeah, so if you're a 13-year-old girl and you watch a diet video, YouTube wakes up its voodoo doll version of that girl and says, hey, I've got like 100 million other voodoo dolls of 13-year-old girls, right? And they all tend to watch these other videos. I don't know, I just know that they have this word, inspiration. Yeah, it's a real thing. YouTube addressed this problem a couple of years ago, but when you let the machine run blind, all it's doing is picking stuff that's engaging.
Why did they choose to not let the machine run blind with one thing, like anorexia?
Well, so now we're getting into the Twitter censorship conversation and the moderation conversation. So this is why I don't focus on censorship and moderation, because the real issue is if you blur your eyes and say, well, how does the whole machine tend to operate? Like, no matter what I start with, what is it going to recommend next? So, if you started with a World War II video, YouTube would recommend a bunch of Holocaust videos. If you started with a diving video, it would recommend videos. In Facebook's case, if you were doing, there's so many examples here, because Facebook recommends groups to Facebook. So if you were a new mom, you had Renee Rest on this podcast. We've done a bunch of work together, and she has this great example of, as a new mom, she joined one Facebook group for mothers who do it-yourself baby food, like organic baby food. And then Facebook has this sidebar that says, here's some other groups you might recommend, you might want to join. And what do you think is the most engaging of those? Because Facebook, again, is picking on which group, if I got you to join it, would cause you to spend the most time here, right? So for some do-it-yourself baby food groups, which group do you think it's selected?
Probably something about vaccines.
Exactly, so anti-vaccines for moms. Okay, so then if you join that group, now it does the same, run the process again. So now look at Facebook. So it says, hey, I got these voodoo dolls. I've got like 100 million voodoo dolls. They just joined this anti-vaccine moms group. And then what do they tend to engage with for a very long time if I get them to join these other groups? Which of those other groups would show up? Chemtrails, Pizzagate, Flat Earth, absolutely. Yep. And YouTube recommended, so I'm interchangeably going from YouTube to Facebook because it's the same dynamic. They're competing for attention. And YouTube recommended Flat Earth conspiracy theories hundreds of millions of times. And so when you're a parent during COVID, and you sit your kids in front of YouTube, you're like, this is the digital pacifier, I've got to let them do the thing, I got to do work. Right. And then you come back to the dinner table, and your kid says, the Holocaust didn't happen and the Earth is flat. And people are wondering why. It's because of this. And now, to your point about this sort of moderation thing, we can take the whack-a-mole stick after the public yells my name, I make a bunch of noise or something, and large community like making noise about this, and they'll say, okay, shoot, you're right, flat Earth, we got to deal with that. And so they'll tweak the algorithm, and then people make a bunch of noise about the inspiration videos for the internet kids and deal with the problem. But then they start doing it based on reality. But again, if you zoom out, it's just still recommending stuff that's kind of crazy.
What's the problem with recommendations? I don't mind that people have these ideas about college. It's me. I'm also a 50-year-old man. I'm not a 12-year-old boy with a limited education. That's a form of government's line to us as listeners the earth. But if that's the real argument about these conspiracy theories, is that they can influence young people, or easily impressionable, or people that maybe don't have a sophisticated sense of vetting out bullshit.
Right. Well, and the algorithms aren't making a distinction between who is just laughing at it and who is deeply vulnerable. In general, it just says who's vulnerable. Another example, the way I think about this is if you're driving down the highway and there's Facebook and Google trying to figure out what should I give you based on what tends to keep your attention. If you look at a car crash, and everybody driving down the highway, they look at the car crash. According to Facebook and Google, it's like the whole world wants car crashes. So you just feed them car crashes after car crashes after car crashes. And what the algorithms do is, Guillaume Chadwell says, the whistleblower, is they find the perfect little rabbit hole for you that it knows will keep you there for 5 hours. And the conspiracy theory, like dark corners of YouTube, were the dark corners that tends to keep people there for 5 hours. And so you have to realize that we're now something like 10 years into this vast psychology experiment, where it's been, in every language in hundreds of countries, right, in hundreds of languages, it's been steering people towards a crazy town. When I say crazy town, I think of, imagine there's a spectrum on YouTube, and there's on one side you have like the calm Walter Cronkite, Carl Sagan, slow, kind of boring, but like educational. And the other side of the spectrum, you have, the crazy. No matter what you start in education, but if I'm YouTube, I want to watch more, I'm going to steer you towards the calm stuff, I'm going to steer you more towards all of you are crazy. Then imagine just and then you just step back, let society run its course as years and years of you just build society by 1 degree, 2 degrees. That's the whole world. That's what everyone is thinking and believing. And so if you look at the degree to which people are deep into radical conspiracy thinking right now, and again, I want to acknowledge Come and Tell Pro, Operation Hummingbird, like there's a lot of real stuff, right? I'm not categorically dismissing, but we're asking, what is the basis upon which we're believing the things we are about the world? And increasingly that's based on psychology. And we can get into, what's going on in Portland. Well, the only way I know that is I'm looking at my social media feed, and according to that, it looks like the entire city's on fire, it's a war zone. But I called a friend there the other day, and he said it's a beautiful day, there's actually no violence anywhere near where I am, it's just like these 2 blocks or something like that. And this is the thing, it's warping our view of reality. And I think that's what really, for me, the social journalist was really trying to accomplish as a film, and the director, Jeff Orlowski, was trying to accomplish, is how did this society go crazy everywhere all at once, seemingly. I mean, this didn't happen by accident, it happened by design of this business model.
When did the business model get implemented? Like, when did they start using these algorithms to recommend it? Because initially, YouTube was just a series of videos, and it didn't have that recommended section. When was that?
That's a good question. I mean, they originally YouTube was just post a video and get people to go to that URL and send it around. They needed to figure out, once the competition for attention got more intense, they needed to figure out how many people were there. And so recommending those videos on the right-hand side, that was pretty early, if I remember, actually. Because that was some of the innovations of keeping people within this YouTube wormhole. And once people were in the YouTube wormhole, constantly seeing videos, that was what they could offer the promise to the new video uploader. Hey, if you post it here, you're going to get way more views than if you posted in the video. Right? And that's the thing. I even have TikTok right now on my phone. Well, I'm not supposed to, obviously, but more for research purposes.
Research. Do you know how to TikTok at all?
No.
My 12-year-old is obsessed.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, she can't even sit around. If she's standing still for 5 minutes, she just starts sweating. She starts talking.
And that's the thing. And
2012. Oh, so the minds were right. 2012, the platform announced an update to the Discover system designed to identify the videos people actually want to watch by prioritizing videos that hold attention throughout, as well as increasing the amount of time users spend on the platform overall. YouTube could assure advertisers that they provide a valuable, high-quality experience. So that's the beginning of the
yeah. So 2012, YouTube's timeline, Twitter and Facebook world. Introduced the free share buttons in 2009, 2010 kind of time period. So you end up with this world where the things that we're most paying attention to are based on algorithms choosing for us. And so sort of a deeper argument in the film, not that everyone picked up on, is these technology systems have taken control of human choice. They take control of humanity because they're controlling information that all of us are getting. Think about every election. Like, I think Facebook is kind of a voting machine, but it's a sort of indirect voting machine because it controls the information for 4 years that the entire society is getting, and then everyone votes based on information. Now you can say, well, hold on, radio, television were there, partisan before that, but actually, radio and TV often get into these stories from Twitter, and Twitter is recognized. So when you control the information that the entire population is getting, you're controlling their choices. I mean, literally in the military, I want to screw up the military. I want to control the information that's getting, confuse the enemy. And that information funnel is the very thing that's been corrupted. And it's like the Flint water supply.
I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she was saying that there were articles that she was laughing. There's articles that are written about negative tweets that random people make about a celebrity doing this or that. And she's like, and she's quoting this article. She's like, look how crazy this is. This is a whole article that's written about someone who decided to say something negative about something some celebrity had done, and then it becomes this huge article, and the tweets are prominently featured. And then the response to those, I mean, it's really like arbitrary, weird.
Because it's a values-blind system that just cares about what will get attention. You know,
exactly, and that's what the article was. It was just an attention grab.
It's interesting because Prince Harry and Meghan have become very interested in these issues and are actively working on these issues and getting to know them just a little bit.
Are they really?
Yeah, well, they're
because it affects them personally.
Well, it's actually interesting. I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I think Meghan has been the target of the most vitriol, hate-oriented stuff on the planet, right? From just the amount of sort of criticism that they get.
Really?
And scrutiny. Yeah. I mean, she's just like newsfeeds filled with hate about just what she looks like, what she says, just constantly.
Boy, I'm out of the loop. I've never seen anything. She's great. What are these things she looks like?
I honestly don't follow myself because I don't follow any attention traps. I try not to, but people just face the word vitriol. I mean, this is the thing with teen bullying, right? So I think they work on these issues because teenagers are now getting a micro version of this thing where each of us are scrutinized, you know? And I think that's what's not, I mean, think about what celebrity status does and how it screws up humans in general, right? Like take an average celebrity, like it warps your mind, it warps your psychology, and when you suddenly follow, each person gets thousands to project forward in the future of 3 years. Each of us have, you know, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of people that are following what they say. That's a lot of feedback. And, you know, as Jonathan Haidt says in the film, and you had him here, you know, it's made kids much more cautious and less risk-taking and more bullied overall. And there's just huge problems with mental health around this.
Yeah, it's really bad for young girls, right?
Especially
for celebrities, and I've had quite a few celebrities in here and we'll discuss it. I just tell them, you can't read that stuff. Just don't read it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no good in it. Like, I had a friend, she did a show, she's a comedian, she did a show, and she was talking about this one negative comment that was inaccurate. It said she only did a half an hour and her show sucked. She was like, I go, why are you reading that? She's like, because it's mostly positive. I go, but how come you're not talking about most of it then? Talking about this one person, one negative person. We're both laughing about it. Like she's healthy, you know. She's not completely fucked up by it, but this one person got into her head. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's not, the juice is not worth the squeeze. But don't read those things.
But this is exactly right, and this is based on how our minds work. I mean, the mind really has something called negativity bias. So if you have 100 comments and is negative, where does the average human's mind go?
Right. They go to the negative.
And it also goes to the negative even when you shut down the screen. Your mind is sitting in the computer. You know why? Because evolutionarily, it's really important that we look at social proof, negative social proof, and start representation. That's what we're taught.
Yeah.
So it has. But it's never been easier now for not just that one comment to sort of gain airtime, but then for that to build a hate mob, and then to see the internet it clicks, and I can go and see 10 other people that respond to that. And so especially when you have teenagers that are exposed to this, and you can keep going down the tree and see all of the hate facts on you. This is the psychological environment that is the default way that kids are growing up.
Yeah.
I actually faced this recently with the film itself, because actually the film has gotten just crazy positive acclaim for the most part, and there's just a few negative comments, and for myself even, right? Like
Conjunction, but
I was glued to a few negative comments, and then you could click and you can see other people that you know who positively like or respond to those comments. Why did that person say that negative? I thought we were friends. That whole kind of psychology, and we're all vulnerable to it.
Yeah,
Unless you learn, as you said, to tell everybody kind of just don't hate it.
even mild stuff. Even a mild disagreement or mild criticism can fix it. And it's also a problem because you realize that someone's saying it and you're not there. You can't defend yourself, so you have this feeling of helplessness. Like, hey, that's not true. I didn't. And then you don't get it out of your system. You never get to express it.
And people can share that false negative stuff. I mean, not all negative stuff is false, but you can assert things and build on the hate stuff and start going crazy and say this person's like the premise, this person's worse. And that will spread to thousands and thousands of people. And next thing you know, you check into your feed again at 8 p.m. at night, and your whole reputation has been destroyed.
Yeah.
And you need to know what happened.
Well,
And this happens with teenagers too. I mean, they're anxious. Like I'll post, teenagers post a photo. Their high school, they make a dumb comment without thinking about it, and then the next thing they know, at the end of the day, parents are all calling because like 300 parents saw it and are calling up the parent of that kid. And it's we talk to teachers a lot at our work at the Center for Humane Technology, and they will say that on Monday morning, this is before COVID, but on Monday morning, they spend the first hour of class having to clear all the drama that happened on social media during the weekend for the kids. And again, this.
and these kids are in what age group?
This is like 8th, 9th, 10th grade, that kind of thing.
And the problem with these kids is there's not like a long history of people growing up through this kind of influence and successfully navigating. These are the pioneers.
Yeah, and they won't know anything different, which is why we talk about in the film, they're growing up in this environment. And one of the simplest principles of is doing to others as you would do to yourself. And as we say at the end of the film, one of the easiest ways you know that there's a problem here is that many of the executives at the social media tech companies don't let their own kids use social media.
Right.
They literally say at the end of the film, it's going to be a rule about it, religious about it, do it. You say, didn't let the kids eat lunch. That's when you know. If you talk to a doctor or a lawyer, the doctor would say, would you get this surgery for your kid? Oh no, I would never do that. Would you trust that doctor? And it's the same thing for a lawyer. So this is a relationship. We have relationship-based symmetry. Technology is influencing all of us. And we need a system by which, when I was growing up, I grew up on Macintosh technology. I was creatively doing programming projects and whatever else. The people who built the technology I was using would have their own kids use the things that I was using because they were creative and they were about tools and empowerment. And that's what's changed. We don't have that anymore because the business model took over. And so instead of having just tools sitting there like hammers waiting to be used to build, creative projects or programming to invent things or paintbrushes or whatever, we now have a manipulation-based technology environment where everything you use has this incentive to not only addict you, but to have you play the fame lottery, get social feedback, because those are all things that keep people's attention.
Isn't this also a problem with these information technologies being attached to corporations that have this philosophy of unlimited growth?
Yeah.
So they're no matter how much they make. I applaud Apple because I think they're the only company that takes steps to protect privacy, to block advertisements, to make sure that at least when you use their Maps application, they're not saving your data and sending it to everybody. And it's one of the reasons why Apple Maps is really not as good as Google Maps. But I use it, and that's one of the reasons why I use it. And when Apple came out recently, and there was they were doing something to block your information being sent to other places. And then I forget what was the exact thing that it was. That's right.
It's not actually out there. What that's a good example of they're putting a tax on the advertising industry, because just by saying you can't track people individually, that takes down the value of advertising by like 30% or something.
Here it is. And you
Right. It's like in the last 7 days, prevented 125 trackers from profile.
Yeah, and you can opt out of it if you'd like. You're like, no, fuck that, track me.
Yep.
Yeah, you can let them send your data, but that seems to me a much more ethical approach to be able to decide whether or not these companies get your information.
I mean, those things are great. The challenge is, imagine you get the privacy equation perfectly right.
Look at this. Apple working on its own search engine as Google ties could be cut soon. I started using DuckDuckGo.
Yep.
For that very reason, just because they don't do anything with it. They give you the information, but they don't take your data and do anything with it.
The challenge is, let's say we get all the privacy stuff perfectly right, and the data protection and data control and all that stuff. In your system, it's still based on attention and grabbing attention, harvesting and strip mining our brains. You still get maximum polarization, addiction, mental health problems, isolation, teen depression, suicide, polarization, breakdown of truth, right? So we really focus in our work on those topics, because that's the direct influence of the business model on what we're thinking about. Like, we need to name this mind. We think of it like the climate change culture. That they seem like different disconnected topics, much like the climate change. You say, like, okay, we've got species loss in the Amazon, we've got losing insects, we've got melting glaciers, we've got ocean acidification, we've got coral reefs, dying. These can feel like disconnected things until you have a unified model which change all those different phenomena, right? In the social sector, we have shortening of attention spans. We have more outrage-driven news. We have more polarization. We have more breakdown of truth. We have more conspiracy-minded thinking. These are like separate events and separate phenomena, but they're actually all part of this attention extraction paradigm that the company's growth, as you said, depends on extracting more of our attention, meaning more polarization, more extreme material, more conspiracy thinking, and shortening attention spans. Because we also say that, if we want to double the size of the attention, I want your attention to be split into two separate streams. Like, I want you watching the TV, the tablet, and the phone at the same time, because now I've tripled the size of the amount of extractable attention that I can get for advertisers. Which means if I'm looking for attention and splitting you into more junk, attention that's like thinner, we can sell that as it's real. So it's like the financial crisis, where you're selling thinner and thinner financial assets as if it's real, but it's really just a junk asset. And that's kind of where we are now, where it's sort of the junk attention economy, because we can shorten attention spans and we're debasing the substrate that makes up our society. Because everything in democracy depends on individual sense-making and meaningful choice, meaningful free will, meaningful independent views. But if that's all basically sold to the highest bidder, it debases the soil from which independent views grow. Because all of us are jacked into this sort of matrix of social media manipulation. That's ruining and degrading our democracy. And that's really, there's many other things that are ruining and degrading our democracy, but that's this sort of invisible force that's upstream that affects every other thing downstream. Because if we can't agree on what's true, for example, we can't solve any problem. I think that's what we're talking about. 10-minute thing in social media.
Yeah. Your organization highlights all those issues in an amazing way. It's very important. But do you have any solutions?
It's hard, right? So I was going to say, this is as complex a problem as climate change. In the sense that you need to change the business model. I think of it like we're on a fossil fuel economy. We have to switch to some kind of beyond that. thing, right? Because so long as the business models of these companies depend on extracting attention, can you expect them to do something different? Like,
you can't, but how could you, I mean, there's so much money involved, and now they've accumulated so much wealth that they have an amazing amount of influence.
yeah.
You know, and
the asymmetric influence by lobbyists and Congress to prevent things from happening. This is why it's kind of the last moment. That's right. But I think we're seeing signs of real change. We had the antitrust case that was just filed against Google. In Congress, we're seeing more hearings.
What was the basis of that case?
To be honest, I was actually in the middle of a social dilemma launch when I think that happened, and my home burned down in recent fires in Santa Rosa. So I actually that happened. Yeah, sorry, that was a big thing to drop, but yeah, no, it's awful. There's so much that's been happening.
I was evacuated 3 times where I lived in California.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Real close to our house. Justice Department sues monopolist Google for violating antitrust laws. The department files a complaint against Google to restore competition in search and search advertising markets. Okay, so it's all about search.
Yeah, this is right. This was a case that's about Google using its dominant position to privilege its own search engine in its own products and beyond, which is similar to sort of Microsoft bundling in the Internet Explorer browser. But this is all good progress, but really this is a fundamental problem. Like, these things are warping our society, and they're warping these things, and there's no progression that it's a really hard problem to solve. I think the reason we don't do something is that if I look at the growth rate and how fast Facebook is recommending people to conspiracy groups as polarizing and separate echo chambers, which we should really break down exactly. But if you look at the growth rate of all those harms compared to how fast it's passing basically none at all.
They seem a little bit unsophisticated in that regard. They're trying to.
Well, I want to be charitable too, and I want to make sure I call out either Senator Warner, Blumenthal, several other senators we've talked to who've been really on top of these issues and led, I think, Senator Warner's white paper on how to regulate the platforms called Plastics in 2018. And Bob was amazing, very hard on these issues. So there are some good folks, but when you look at the broad, like the hearing yesterday, it's mostly politicizing the issue, right? You turn it into, on the right, hey, you're censoring conservatives, and on the left, it's, hey, you're not taking down enough misinformation and dealing with hate speech and things like that. And they're not actually dealing with how we solve this problem. They're just trying to make a political point to win over their base.
Now, Facebook recently banned the QAnon pages, which I thought was kind of fascinating, because I'm like, well, this is a weird sort of slippery slope, isn't it? Like, if you decide, it almost seemed to me like, well, we'll throw them a bone, we'll get rid of QAnon because it's so preposterous, let's just get rid of that. But what else? Like, if you keep going down that rabbit hole, where do you draw the line? Like, where are you allowed to have JFK conspiracy theories? Are you allowed to have flat Earth? Are you allowed? I guess flat Earth is not dangerous. Is that where they make the distinction?
Yeah, so I think their policy is evolving in the direction of when things are causing offline harm, when online content is known to receive offline harm, that's when the platform, that's the standard of the platform.
What offline harm?
Several incidents we usually have arms, gun and there's things that are priming people to be violent. These are, I just want to say, these are really interesting topics, right? I think what I want to make sure you get to is that there are many people who are equally agree with things that can happen in these echo chambers. Because once you're in one of these things, like I studied cults for 4 years, and the power of cults is like they're a vertically integrated persuasion stack, because they control your social relationships, they control who you're hearing from and who you're not hearing from. They give you meaning, purpose, and belonging. They have a custom language, they have an internal way of referring to things, and social media allows you to create this sort of decentralized cult factory, where it's easier to grab people into an echo chamber where they only hear from other people's views, and Facebook even just recently announced that they're going to be promoting more of the Facebook content into feeds, which means that they're actually going to make it easier for that manipulation to happen.
But did they make a distinction between group content and conspiracy? Like how do you when does group content, when does it cross the line?
I don't know. I mean, the policy teams that work on this are coming up with their own standards, so I'm not familiar with it. If you think about, think about how hard it is to come up with a law at the federal level that all states will agree to, then you imagine Facebook trying to come up with a policy that will be universal to all the countries that are running Facebook, right?
Well, then you imagine how you take a company that never thought they were going to be in the position to do that, and then within a decade, become the most prominent source of news and information on planet Earth, and now they have to regulate it.
And I actually believe Zuckerberg when he says, I don't want to make these decisions. I shouldn't be used to decide the whole thing. I genuinely believe and sure, but the problem is he created a situation where he's now in that position. It's very different. He did it aggressively when he went into countries like Myanmar, Ethiopia, all over the African continent, where they gave food basics.
No.
So this is the program that I think has got something like 700 million accounts on Facebook, where they do a deal with like a telecommunications provider, like their version of AT&T in the universe. So when you get your smartphone, it comes with Facebook's built in. And there's a asymmetry of access where it's free to access Facebook, but it costs money to do the other things. So it's the data plan. So you get a free Facebook account. Facebook is the internet, basically, because it's the free thing that you do with it. And then we know that there's fake information that's being spread there.
So the data doesn't apply to Facebook use?
Yeah, like the cost, how we pay for data, like I think you don't pay for Facebook, but you do pay for all the other things, which creates an asymmetry where, of course, you're going to use Facebook for most things.
Right. So you Facebook Messenger,
And
video
WhatsApp.
calls.
I don't know exactly the video because of different levels
Facebook
of
has video calls as well.
In general, they do. I just don't know how that works in the development world. But there's a joke within Facebook, where, this is called Genesis, right? So in Myanmar, which is the Rohingya Muslim minority group, many were persecuted and murdered because of fake information spread by the government on Facebook using their asymmetric knowledge with fake accounts. And even just a couple of weeks ago, Facebook took down a network of several hundred thousand fake accounts in Myanmar. And they didn't even have at the time more than something like 4 or 5 people in their extended Facebook network who even spoke the language of that country. So we realized that this is like think of like the Iraq War, Colin Powell, Potterfly rule, where if you go in and break it, and you're responsible for fixing it. This is Facebook actively doing a deal to go into the deal, to go into providing solutions. And then it breaks the silence. And they're now asking that the fix is actually a joke on Facebook. If you want to know which countries would be at risk and to which countries, look at which ones have Facebook streaming.
And it's terrifying that they do that and don't have very many people who speak the language, so there's no way to get it filtered.
That's right. And so now we take it back, we were talking outside about the aggression of Jack Dorsey and the question just about, are you taking down the content from the Ayatollahs or from the Chinese Xinjiang province about the Uyghurs? When there's sort of speech that leads to offline violence in these other countries. The issue is that these platforms are managing the information comments for countries they don't even speak the language of. And if you think that conspiracy theory is sort of dark corners, crazy towns of the English internet are bad, and we've already taken out hundreds of activists, they've hired hundreds of policy people and hundreds of engineers to deal with that problem. You go to a country like Ethiopia, where there's something like 90-something dialects, I think, in the country, and 6 major languages, where one of them is the dominant Facebook sort of language, and then the others get persecuted because they actually don't have a voice on the platform. This is really important that the people in Myanmar who got persecuted and murdered didn't have to be on Facebook for the fake information spread about them to impact them, to go after them. So this is the whole, I can assert something about this minority group. That minority group isn't on Facebook, but if it manipulates the dominant culture to go, we have to go kill them, then they can go do it. And the same thing has happened You know, in India, where there's videos uploaded about, hey, those Muslims, I think they're called flesh killings, where they'll say that these Muslims killed this cow in India. The cows are sacred. They will post those, go viral on WhatsApp and say, we have to go reach those Muslims because they killed our sacred cows. And they went from something like 500 happening per year to now hundreds of those happening per year as the fake news is spread, again, on Facebook, on WhatsApp. And again, they don't have to be on for this to happen, right? So this is critical. Imagine you and I are all, let's imagine all of us, you know, tens of millions, right? And we all listen to this say that we don't want to use Facebook for whatever reason. We all still, if you live in the US, still live in a country that everyone else will vote based on everything. If you zoom out to the global context, all of us, we don't use Facebook in Brazil, but if Brazil, which was heavily, the last election was skewed by Facebook and WhatsApp, where something like 87% of people saw at least one of the major fake news stories about Bolsonaro, and he got elected, and you have people in Brazil chanting, Facebook, Facebook, when he wins, and then he sets a new policy to wipe out the Amazon. All of us don't have to be on Facebook to be affected by a leader that wipes out the Amazon and accelerates climate change timelines because of those interconnected effects. So, you know, we at the Center for Urban Technology are looking at this from a global perspective, where it's not just the U.S. election. Facebook manages something like 80 elections per year. And if you think that they're doing all the monitoring that they are for, you know, English-speaking American election, most privileged society, now look at the hundreds of other countries that they're operating. Do you think that they're devoting the same resources to the other countries?
This is so crazy. It's like, is that you, Jamie? It's a weird noise. You hear like a squeaky? Yeah.
Maybe it's me.
I don't think it is. My feedback. There it is.
Might be.
Is it?
Repeating.
You have asthma?
I think I had an allergy.
Sorry. What's terrifying is that we're talking about 2012 to 2020, and then the birth date was like 2002 or 3, 2004. This is such a short time and having these massive worldwide implications from the use of these things. When you look at the future, do you look at this like a runaway train that's headed towards the cliff?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, this thing is a Frankenstein that it's not like, even if Facebook is aware of all these problems, they don't have the staff unless they hired like hundreds of thousands of people, definitely, minimum, to try to address all these problems. But the paradox for it is that the very premise of these services is to rely on automation. Like, it used to be, we had editors and journalists, or at least editors, or people who edited what went on television, saying what is credible, what is true. Like, you sat here with Alex Jones yesterday, and you're trying to check in on everything he's saying, right? You're researching and trying to look that stuff up. You're trying to be doing some more responsible communication. The premise of these systems is that you don't do that. Like, the reason venture capitalists find social media so profitable and such a good investment is because we generate the content for free. We are the useful idiots, right? Instead of paying a journalist $70,000 a year to write something credible, we can each be convinced to share our political views, and we'll do it knowingly for free. Actually, we don't really know we're the useful idiots. That's the kind of the point. And then instead of paying an editor $100,000 a year to figure out which of those things is true that we want to promote and give exponential reach to, you have an algorithm that says, hey, what do people click on the most? What do people like the most? And then you realize the quality of the signals that are going into the information environment that we're all sharing is a totally different process. We went from a high-quality, gated process that costs a lot of money to this really crappy process that costs no money, which makes the company so profitable. And then we fight back for territory, for values, when we raise our hands and say, hey, there's a Finspiration video problem for teenagers and anorexia. Hey, there's a mass conspiracy sort of echo chamber problem over here. Hey, there's flat Earth sort of issues. And again, these get into tricky topics because we want to, I know we both believe in free speech, and we have this feeling that the solution to bad speech is better, more speech that counters the things that are said. But in a finite attention economy, we don't have the capacity for everyone who gets bad speech to just have a counter response. In fact, what happens right now is that bad speech rabbit holes into, not only call it worse and worse speech, but more extreme versions of that view that confirms it. Because once Facebook knows that flat earth rabbit hole is good for you at getting your attention back, it wants to give you just more and more of that. It doesn't want to say, here's 20 people who disagree with that thing. Right? So I think if you were to imagine a different system, we would ask who are the thinkers that are most open-minded and synthesis-oriented, where they can actually steelman the other side. Actually, they can do, for this speech, here is the opposite counter-argument. They can show that they understand that. And imagine those people get lifted up. But notice that none of those people that you and I know, we're both friends with Eric Weinstein, and he's one of these guys who's really good at sort of offering the steelmanning, here's the other side of this, here's the other side of that. But the people who generally do that aren't the ones who get the tens of millions of followers on these services. It's the black and white, extreme, outrage-oriented thinkers and speakers that get rewarded in these attention economy. And so if you look at how, by zooming way out and say, how is the entire system behaving? Just like if I zoom out and say the climate system, how is the entire overall system behaving? It's not producing the kind of information environment on which democracy can survive.
Jesus. The thing that troubles me the most is that I clearly see your thinking and I agree with you. Like, I don't see any holes in what you're saying. Like, I don't know how this plays out, but it doesn't look good. And I don't see a solution. It's like, if there are 1,000 bison running full steam towards a cliff, and they don't realize the cliff is there, I don't see how you pull them back.
So, think of it like we're trapped in a body, and that's eating itself. So like it's kind of a cannibalism economy because our economic growth right now is based on eating our own organs. So we're eating our own mental health organs, we're eating the health of our children, we're eating sorry for being so gnarly about it, but it's a cannibalistic system. In a system that's hurting itself or eating itself or punching itself, if one of the neurons wakes up in the body, it's not enough to change that. It's going to keep punching itself. But if enough of the neurons wake up and say, this is stupid, why would we build our system this way? And the reason I'm so excited about the film is that if you have 40 to 50 million people who now recognize that we're living in this sort of cannibalist system in which an economic incentive is to debase the life support systems of your democracy, we can all wake up and say, that's stupid. Let's do something different. Let's actually change the system. Let's use different platforms. Let's fund different platforms. Let's regulate and tame the existing Frankensteins. And I don't mean regulating speech. I mean really thoughtfully, how do we change the incentives so it doesn't go to the same race to the bottom? And we have to all recognize that we're now 10 years into this hypnosis experiment of warping of the mind. And like, he's friends with semantists, it's like, how do we snap our fingers and get people to say, there's an inflated level of polarization and hatred right now, that especially going into this election, I think we all need to be much more cautious about what's running in our brains right now.
Yeah, I don't think most people are generally aware of what's causing this polarization. I think they think it's the climate of society because the president and because of Black Lives Matter and George Floyd protests and all this jazz. But I don't think they understand that that's exacerbated in a fantastic way by social media and the last 10 years of our addictions to social media and these echo chambers that we all exist in.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that we're both clear, and I know you agree with this, that these things were already in society to some degree, right? So we want to make sure we're not saying social media is blamed for all of it. Absolutely not. No. In fact,
gasoline.
It's gasoline, right? Exactly. It's lighter fluid for sparks of polarization.
Yes.
It's lighter fluid for sparks of more paranoid.
Which is ironically what everybody. It was the opposite of what everybody hoped the internet was going to be.
Right.
Everybody hoped the internet was going to be this bottomless resource of information where everyone was going to be educated in a way they'd never experienced before in the history of the human race, where you'd have access to all the answers to all your questions. Eric Weinstein describes it as the library of Alexandria in your pocket.
Yeah.
But no.
Well, and I want to be clear so that I'm not against technology or giving people access. In fact, I think a world where everyone had a smartphone and a Google search box and Wikipedia and like a search-oriented of YouTube so you could look up health issues and how to do-it-yourself fix anything would be awesome. That would be great. I would love that. I just want to be really clear because this is not an anti-technology conversation. It's about, again, this business model that depends on recommending stuff to people which just to be clear on the polarization front, social media is more profitable when it gives you your own Truman Show that affirms your view of reality every time you flick your finger. That's going to be more profitable than every time you flick your finger, I actually show you, here's a more complex, nuanced picture that disagrees with that. Here's a different way to see it. That will be nearly as successful. And the best way for people to test this, we actually recommend, even after you've seen the film, to do this, is open up Facebook on 2 phones, especially like two partners or people who have the same friends. So you have the same friends on Facebook. You would think if you scroll your feed, you'd see the same thing. The same people you're following. So why wouldn't you see the same thing? But if you swap phones and you actually scroll through their feed for 10 minutes, and you scroll through mine for 10 minutes, you'll find that you'll see completely different information. And you'll also notice that it won't feel very compelling. Like if you ask yourself, my friend Emily just did this with her husband after seeing the film, and she literally has the same friends as her husband, and she scrolled through the feed, she's like, this isn't interesting. I wouldn't come back to this. Right? And so we have to again realize how subtle and just how subtle this has been.
I wonder what would happen if I scrolled through my feed, because I literally don't use Facebook. I don't use it at all. I only use Instagram. I stopped using Twitter because it's like a bunch of mental patients throwing shit at each other. And I very rarely use it, I should say. Occasionally I'll check some things to see like what the climate is, but culture climate. But I use Instagram and Facebook. I used to use Instagram to post to Facebook, but I kind of stopped even doing that. It just seems gross. It's these people, these verbose arguments about politics and economy and world events, and
we have to ask ourselves, is that medium constructed to solving these problems?
No.
Like, just not at all. And it's an attention casino, right? The house always wins. And we're, Eric Weinstein, you might see Eric Weinstein in a thread, battling it out or sort of duking it out with someone, and maybe even reaching some convergence on something, it just whizzes by your feet and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? And all the effort that we're putting in to make these systems work, but then it's just all gone.
What do you do?
I mean, I try to very minimally use social media overall. Luckily, the work is so busy that that's easier. I want to say first that, on the addiction fronts of these things, I myself am very sensitive and, easily addicted by these things myself, and that's why I think I notice.
You were saying the social dilemma, it's email for you, huh?
Yeah, for me, I refresh my email and pull to refresh like a slot machine. Sometimes I'll get invited to meet the president of such and such to advise on regulation, and sometimes I get a stupid newsletter from a politician I don't care about or something. So email is very addictive. It's funny, I talked to Daniel Kahneman, who wrote the founder of behavioral economics, who wrote the book Thinking Fast and Slow, and he said as well that email was most addictive for him. And the one thing you'll find is the people who know most about these sort of persuasive, manipulative tricks, they'll say, we're not immune to them because we know about them. Dan Ariely, who's another famous persuasion behavioral economics guy, talks about flattery and how flattery still feels good even if I tell you I don't mean it. Like, I love that sweatshirt. That's an awesome sweatshirt. Where'd you get it? You're just being bullshit. But that's the, it feels good to get flattery even if you know that it's not real. And the point being that, we have so much evolutionary wiring to care about other people. That just because you know that they're manipulating you,
Love the momentum, friend. Tough battle. Pick yourself back up and turn it around. Keep up the momentum, friend. Pick yourself back up and turn it around. That'll do some damage. I think you can win this thing. Nice work out there. Keep up the pressure. Hey, a triple. Here's your reward.
Safety restrictions online. Harvesting servos engaged. Defensive systems online.
That's quite the army you're building, friend. Keep up the momentum, friend.